Shabbat Shalom. All right. So I make these videos for my sons that I'm not living near, and just kind of a way for me to try and parent away from them. Today I'm going to read 1 Kings chapter 9 out of the Complete Jewish Study Bible. And so, first of all, Solomon is going to talk about Solomon, David's son, and his reign and building of the temple. And in this Bible, they use Adonai in the place of the word God, and that's in large part, I believe, from what I understand, when the Romans took over Israel, they forbid the Jewish people to use the name of God in public. So they replaced much of it in scriptures and in writings, the name of God, with Adonai, which also means Lord. And I'm not going to use the word Adonai. The name of God, one is Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, which are 4 letters out of the Hebrew alphabet, and so when you hear me say Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, that's God, and Shlomo is Solomon. So, 1 Kings chapter 9. After Shlomo had finished building the house of Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, the royal palace and everything else he wanted to build for himself, Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh appeared to Shlomo a second time, as he had appeared to him in Givon. Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh said to him, I have heard your prayer and your plea that you made before me. I am consecrating this house which you built and placing my name there forever. My eyes and heart will always be there. As for you, if you will live in my presence, as did David your father, in pureness of heart and uprightness, doing everything I have ordered you to do by observing my laws and rulings, then I will establish the throne of your rulership over Israel forever, just as I promised. So I just want to point out real quick that, God requires us to obey his laws and rulings, not just laws, but also the rulings. It's a covenant that we have with God. All of God's covenants involve us obeying his rules and his laws, and him being our God. So, I think modern day Christianity and a lot of spiritualism saying that God doesn't require us to obey any rules or laws, that's what sanctifies us. That's what sets us apart as worshiping the Creator. As he's promised, it says, just as I promised, David. So, okay. He goes on, verse 6, but if you turn away from following me, you or your children, and do not observe my mitzvot, and mitzvot is used so many times, and these are 617 laws God set aside for his people, for us to obey, and people, the law's done away with. Well, no, that's what consecrates us, that's what sets us apart, those laws. Anybody can say they believe in God, but that doesn't set you apart. That doesn't consecrate you. Obeying God's laws, it's a covenant. Just real quick, this is off the subject and neither here nor there, but I think it's an interesting topic. There's a guy on the internet that claims that when he was in the Air Force, he was out at Area 51, 50, and 53, and he said and this guy's, he's educated, he's got a master's in nuclear fusion or something, I can't remember what now, but anyway, he said that he actually spoke to these, he called them tall whites, these aliens that came and, believe this if you want or not, or who knows. But, he said something was interesting that was different about these people was that their word was a bond. And the only reason he was allowed to go and talk about these people is because he kept his word, his bond with these people, a covenant. He said that their word was holy almost. It was different than people here that in our culture. But I wonder, there's a lot of talk, about angels in the Bible, and we'll get into that later. Anyway, so you turn away from following me, you or your children, and do not observe my mitzvot and regulations which I have set before you, and go and serve other gods, worshiping them. Then I will cut off Israel from the land I have given them, this house which I consecrated for my name. I will eject from my sight, and Israel will become an example to avoid and an object of scorn among all peoples. This house, now so exalted, everyone passing by will gasp in shock at the sight of it, and will ask, why has Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh done this to this land and to this house? But the answer will be, it's because they abandoned Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, their God, who brought their ancestors out of the land of Egypt, and took hold of other gods, worshipping and serving them. This is why Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh brought all these calamities on them. At the end of 20 years, during which time Shlomo had built the two buildings, the house of Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh and the royal palace, King Shlomo gave Hiram 20 cities in the land of Galil. Recall that Hiram, the king of Tizor, had supplied Shlomo with cedar and cypress logs and with all the gold Shlomo wanted. So, we talked earlier about for 7 days. This relates to 7. I'll get to that later. Supplied Shlomo. Okay, so all the gold and cedar. Hiram came over from Tizor to see the cities Shlomo had given him, but he was not satisfied with them, so he didn't like these cities. He said, what kind of cities are these which you have given me, my brother? So they have been called the land of Kabul, good for nothing. Till this day, Hiram had sent the king 4 tons of gold. That's a lot of gold. Following is the account of the forced labor levied by King Shlomo for building the house of Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, his own palace, the Millo, the wall of Jerusalem, and the cities of Hatzor, Megiddo, and Gezer. Pharaoh, king of Egypt, had gone up, taken Gezer, burned it to the ground, and killed the Canaanite living in the city. Then he had given it as a dowry for his daughter Shlomo's wife. So remember, Solomon marries Pharaoh's daughter. So Shlomo rebuilt Gezer. He also built Lower Beit Horon, Baalat, and Tadmor in the desert in the land, as well as all the cities that Shlomo had for storing supplies, the cities for his chariots, the cities for his horsemen, and other buildings Shlomo wanted to build for himself in Jerusalem. In the Lebanon and throughout the land he ruled. All the people still left from the Amori, Hitti, Prizi, Hivi, and Yebusi, who were not part of the people of Israel. So these were inhabitants that were supposed to be driven out originally, when the Jews first went into Israel, and they didn't drive all of them out, and so God told them to kill them all. That is, their descendants remaining after them in the land, whom the people of Israel were not able to destroy completely. From them Shlomo levied his forced laborers, as it is to this day. But Shlomo did not raise any of his forced labor from the people of Israel. Rather, they were the soldiers, his servants, administrators, and commanders, and the officials in charge of his chariots and horsemen. So, that's kind of interesting. They were 550 chief officers over Shlomo's work in charge of the workers. Pharaoh's daughter came up from the city of David to her house, which Shlomo had built for her. After that, he built the Millo. 3 times a year, Shlomo offered burnt offerings and peace offerings on the altar which he had built for Adonai, offering incense with them on the altar before, I said Adonai, Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh. So he finished the house. King Shlomo built a fleet of ships to Etzion Geber by Elia on the shore of the sea of the Suf in the land of Edom. Hiram sent some of his own servants, experienced sailors who understood the sea, to serve with Shlomo's servants. They went out to Ophir and took from there gold, 14 tons of it. 14 tons of gold. Ophir. Which they brought back to King Shlomo. So that's a lot of gold. And sons, I love you guys, and I hope you're doing well. And yeah,